4333. We are arranging transportation for those that will need it, but keep in mind that we will have to pull our buses off of the road probably at least 1 to 2 hours before those tropical storm force winds. We've already heard from PSTA. Their plan is to stop running buses at 5 p.m. So if you are relying on public transportation or you need transportation assistance, you need to be making those plans now so you can get your evacuation moved to that safe location further in county.
All the way up to
those rides for PSTA will be free, and again they'll be running until 5 p.m. today.
So
if you do evacuate to either a shelter or a friend's house, make sure that you take your vital documents, medications, pet supplies, lock your doors and turn off your power and gas, and head to that safe location.
That would make a really
Storm surge
nice
flooding is going to be our biggest danger, but we also will be getting those winds as I talked about earlier.
And comes out
for those of you outside of the evacuation zone who'll be riding out the storm in your homes, make sure you're ready. Please bring in those loose objects from your yard. We don't want them to become projectiles. Make sure that you have your basic supplies like food, bottled water, flashlights. It's a great time that if you've got those little power ports that you can use to recharge your phone, make sure you're charging that up. Charge your phones up. Make sure they're fully charged before you go to bed tonight. If you plan to use a generator, please don't use it during the storm inside. Afterwards, you can set up your generator outside and make sure that it's not venting towards your windows or doors. We don't want anybody to have issues with carbon monoxide. Operate it outside and away from windows. Once these tropical storm force winds start arriving this evening, it's very important that you continue to shelter in place and stay safe, even until after the storm. We need time to get out and remove any debris from the streets. We need to check and see if there's flooding and roads are impassable. With power outages or lines down, there's a possibility that intersections may not have working lights. So we'll need to make sure that we're treating those as four-way stops, and we want to try to get everything restored as quickly as possible. Duke Power has staged thousands of personnel here in our county, and you heard the governor talk yesterday. There are tens of thousands of additional electrical workers that have come in from across the country to help restore power as quickly as possible. We expect the winds to last overnight with the highest winds into the morning hours. So I want people to remember that once these winds get above tropical storm force, first responders may not be able to respond to you. So if you are worried about flooding in your home, if you're worrying about the winds and how they may impact your home, I highly encourage you to move to a safe place, friend or family, one of our shelters, hotel, motel, outside of the evacuation zones. Do that before 5 p.m. tonight. We have detailed information on our shelters, transportation, and what you need to prepare at disaster.pinellas.gov. You can also sign up for Alert Pinellas on our website. We will send notifications to you. We'll let you know when the lockdown period is, when the highest winds are coming. You can get updates from us. We also have a Ready Pinellas app, also in English and Spanish. Has great preparedness information, what you need for your kit, and we'll be giving more information in terms of what people need to do to be able to get set for when these winds arrive, so we can make sure that people are protecting themselves during the storm. The County Information Center, again, is open 24 hours a day. Again, that number is 727-464-4333. I know that this storm is not headed directly, but please keep in mind it's hazardous and deadly for us. If you're in Zone A, you can expect that 4 to 7 feet of storm surge, and this is above ground. So if your house is elevated at 5 feet above ground, you're only going to see potentially up to 2 feet of water in your home. So it really depends on what your elevation is, but you can see all along our coastal areas, our low-lying areas, we expect this storm surge to get pushed in. We expect the highest surge to occur tomorrow early morning around 5 or 6 a.m. And then we could see, because we know that we've got these higher tides tomorrow afternoon in different places of the county, there could still be some coastal
QQQ.
flooding
So look at
areas, those
IWM.
low-lying roads that might flood on sunny day, king tide flooding.
nice
You still
green
could have some
candle.
water on those roads. So
Finally
please,
making
you
the,
can look up this
higher
map at
low
the National
here on
Hurricane
this daily
Center. It's
chart.
available. We
So
will
back
also
up
post
into
an
not
image
quite as strong as
afterwards
the
and make it
SPY,
available to the media to
right up
really
into
stress
the major
that the
resistance
cone
back
doesn't
here.
tell the whole story of
So
what
these
this storm
humps right
is
there,
going to
these
do.
tails up.
Thank you so much
we're
for
back
your
into the
time.
major
Please don't
resistance.
panic.
So
Please take the time
IWM
today to
needs
prepare.
follow
Get to
through
your
for
safe
tomorrow.
location.
Or
If you
some
need to
type
call
of
and talk to
pause,
somebody,
rest, and then
please call our
follow
County
through.
Information Center.
There's IWM
Check on your
putting in
neighbors,
a
especially
possible
the
right
elderly
shoulder.
folks, neighbors that might need
SPY
assistance. We're all
putting
in this
in a
together, so
possible
we
right
encourage
shoulder
everybody
there.
to get
We'll
prepared
see what
today.
happens.
Get to your safe
Now let's take a look at
location.
FNGU.
All right, so that was the latest update out of Pinellas
FNGU,
County
here's the
there, as
neckline
we
for
were
the
really all
FNGU.
day
This would be
today.
the
Started
egg.
out in the early morning and
And
continued
get the
into
circles
the
and squares
afternoon,
out.
evening, bringing you the latest right
All right,
here
so here's
as
our
we continue
head
to
right
track
here.
Hurricane
And
Idalia.
we
Right
got a
now,
right
this is
shoulder
the look
right
that we
here.
are seeing on our
And
radar
a left
system.
shoulder
So we
right
are going
here.
to continue to monitor it right
this
here
is
for
our
you on live
neckline
now
right
from
through-
Fox. Coming up
right
on a
through
new
there.
hour right here.
So
4
we're
o'clock
still
on the East
underneath
Coast,
this
1 o'clock
neckline.
on the
Bears
West Coast.
still
I'm your
have
host, Mike
control.
Page. Thanks so much for joining
Nice
us
rally
here
back.
on Live
Couldn't get
Now.
up
I want to
over this
continue
red
our
candle.
coverage right here. Go out to
But,
Citrus
nice.
County
Still very
in
nice
Florida.
rally
That
back.
is where we find
And
Fox
let's
13's
look at it with
Evan
all the
Axelbank. Thanks so
drawings
much
on it
for joining us
and
here
see
on
where
Live
it
Now
comes out
from
with
Fox
quad lines.
as you continue and
So
your
here's
team
quad
to
lines.
track this
And
hurricane.
not quite over the midpoint, but if we drag it down to the shoulder, we're
good
up
to see you.
over
We're
the
about
midpoint
70 miles
of
right
the
now,
shoulder,
north and
but if you
west
include
of
the
Tampa.
head,
And
not
the
quite there yet.
eerie thing about a hurricane is it's not
Still
here
got the
until it's
trend
here, and
line
even though
and
it's
the
just
neckline
maybe
to
10,
deal
12
with.
hours or
So
so from
we've got
coming
a
on by our
midpoint,
location
a
here and sweeping up the
neckline,
coast, you can see
and,
that things
a whole lot
look
of headwind here
as
and
calm as can
minor
be.
resistance
If it wasn't for the
right
fact that
through
it
here.
is
This would
deserted
be
right
minor
now, it would look like
resistance
any other
is
summer day
this area
here
right here.
in Citrus
And
County.
this
The water,
area
as you
right
can see
here.
behind me, couldn't be any more calm. There's
And
barely
this
any
area
wind,
right
maybe just a
here.
slight breeze. And so,
all
people
of
have been
that
ordered to
represents
evacuate this
minor
area, and
resistance
indeed some
right
have,
through
some
there.
have not. But
And you
at
can
this
see
point,
we're right
it
into
couldn't be any more
right there
calm.
with the
Let's show you, though. We
FNGU.
did see a somber
They're gonna
scene
need
here a little bit
follow-through for
earlier, just a
tomorrow,
few
either
feet from where I'm
pause
standing.
or
We saw an elderly
follow-through.
resident
But,
of a 130-year-old house
giving
being
this
evacuated
gains
by
up
friends and family.
would not be
This is
good
right
for the
along the
bulls.
Homosassa
All right,
River
so
and will be in significant
they
danger. That
can't
house
give
will,
this up.
if
They've
the
either got
storm
to
surge
pause
is significant. We also saw boats
or
being
try
brought
to
into
hold it
tall
some way, a
storage
little bit of
facilities.
follow-through,
Employees
or
of the
some
boat
type of
rental
pause. They
business
need to
here
hold
called
on to
McCrae's,
this,
they're not planning
in
to
order to stay
evacuate right
bullish.
now. They say they're going to kind of
So
try to
there's
wait things out in the
FNGU.
motel across
So
the
now
way
let's take
from
a
us,
look
even though
at the
this area
diamond.
is in Zone A
Diamond
and has
Dow
been
dogs.
evacuated by Citrus County
All right,
emergency
diamonds
management officials,
taking a
as
nice
have
rip
many
right
of the
back
Zone
up,
A's around
bouncing
the
off
Tampa
of
Bay area. We saw a
minor
number of people
support.
who appear to
Minor
be
support would
staying in
be,
their homes, and those who are in a more
right
fragile
here.
state, though,
These humps
are being
right there,
evacuated
two
just
humps right
out of
there,
safety's sake.
bouncing off the minor support area.
It's unpredictable and
and you see here's the
uncertain,
support bouncing
but
up.
we're
And where
confident
do we
that
have
we'll make it
minor
through it.
resistance?
What is your plan right
through
now?
there.
To
So we got minor
get her out of
resistance
here
coming
and
up. It's not there
And
yet.
from
We'll
that,
see
we
how
don't know.
high they can get. Still a downtrend.
Citrus
We've
County
got
Emergency Management says that it is
uh,
fully prepared for all
lower
kinds of
highs
catastrophic events
lower
that could
lows.
accompany Idalia.
And a possible
They
another
say they're
lower
prepared
high.
for
So we'll
60
see
to
what
80 mile
happens.
per hour
Kinda
winds with
setting up the
gusts
head
that are
and
even worse
shoulders.
than
Here's
that.
the left shoulder,
They're also
neck,
prepared for 8 to 12
right
feet of
neck.
storm surge.
Could be
They
a left
say
shoulder,
anyone
could
in
be a
Zone
right
A should
shoulder.
have
We'll see what
already
happens.
evacuated.
There's
Shelters
the
are considered a
diamonds.
last resort, but are open in
Now
the area
switch
if
gears.
anybody needs them. Again, this is an area here. This is an area we come to quite often
And
whenever
let's go
there's
take a
significant
look at the
flooding up here in the
SMH. I
northern
think the
part of our
SMH
Tampa
did
Bay
good
viewing
today.
area. This will be
All
the
right,
first
so-
area that
let's go back
floods
and look
in Tampa Bay because of the
diamonds
storm.
to
I
see
mean, you
where
can
they
see
are
how close we
in
are to the
terms
water.
of a
The water
midpoint
is
pullback.
right down
All right,
near where we're
so
standing
in
right now. I mean,
terms
it's
of the
only just a
midpoint
few
pullback,
inches from
closing
the water
up
line
over the
and the deck
midpoint,
that I'm standing on. So
this
this is going to
candle
flood right
there,
away as soon as it does, we're going to be out of here. And if we get 4 to 7 feet of water, I mean, you know, I'm just about 6 feet tall, a little less than that. I mean, that
back up over the
put the water up
midpoint.
here, you know, somewhere in there. So that's something no one wants to
see
see here, Michael.
No,
just
no,
need to
it
hold
doesn't
on
at
to it,
all
or
there, and we
get us
really
some type of
appreciate
even
your
a little mini
updates to
follow
you
through
and
would
your
help
crew.
out for the
Stay safe
diamonds.
in these
We'll see what happens
next
there. Now back
coming
to the
days. We really appreciate your reporting.
Right,
and
so
stay safe as always there. Evan Axelbank always doing a great job with Fox 13.
Candle up. And we'll take a look at this bull
And of course, we will continue as a track Hurricane Idalia. We want to continue coverage right now, bringing you the latest here on Live Now from Fox. What we are going to do is feature some of our stations out there in Florida, Fox 13 and Fox 35. But right now, let's go out to Fox 13 in Tampa right now as they are giving with their teams the latest updates with Hurricane Idalia.
So we've got a lower high and a higher low on the SMH.
A temporary dam around the low-lying part of Manatee Memorial Hospital. See how they inflated this temporary dam there. Water is already coming up along the coastline there in parts of Manatee. Fox 13's Kimberly Cleason joining us live from Longboat Key. And Kim, we understand there's already water on the roads there.
Still in a bear flag. Overall, on the
Chris,
bigger
well, actually,
picture,
that water has gone away. That's part of the king tide. And just up until 2 hours ago, that water was coming up onto the roadway, but it's since dissipated, which is good for right now. I'll give you a perspective of where we're at. We're on the north end of Longboat Key, right in between the Mar Vista and the shore. We're actually taking cover under the shore restaurant here. But joining me is Longboat Key Fire Rescue Chief Michael Regner. Chief, we see the winds have steadily picked up here. What do you want residents to know at this point in time?
Just we want the residents to be safe, and we want them to heed the evacuation warning. We want everybody to evacuate. All of Longboat Key is in a level A, and that is what is supposed to be evacuated. We do see people still out on the island, so we want them to evacuate. Now is the time before we really start to see, some of the surge and some more wind. We're just getting it now, just starting to see the effects of it, and we just want everybody to be cautious and be safe and go ahead and evacuate now while you still can.
And I think we had talked earlier, too. You said some of those people in the two-story high-rises, the concrete builds, the newer build homes, they may think that they're okay and they may be okay, but it's the after effects.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we're going to see the storm surge, we are going to get water on the roadways and so forth. And if they call 911 and ask for responders to come to their home if they stay out here, which we do not want them to do, but if that were to happen, we have to then navigate those wet roads and walk water over the roads to first get to them, and then if they need to be transported to hospital, we have to navigate the water on the roads to get to the hospital over the Ringling Causeway area and the north side as well. So those are the things that we have to contend with just to make sure that we can get to the people out here. That's why being a level A, it's time to evacuate.
So we're in the village of Longboat Key, one of the historic parts of Longboat Key. Can you talk about just earlier, 2 hours ago, we were in that water coming to meet you, and the roads were flooded, but now we're seeing some good signs, but you're preparing for what may come.
Yeah, absolutely. So out here on the north end of Longboat Key especially, when it's a high tide, normal, we do get flooding in the streets. People are aware of that. It's that storm surge that we're worried about that we're going to see out here. So a couple hours ago, it was a receding tide, but we had water in the streets already. So with the storm surge, that's our issue in this area especially.
Thanks, Chief. Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Again, just be safe throughout the entire storm for yourself and everywhere you're going to be, and we just want everybody to be safe and be cautious.
Well, Chief, thank you for everything that you and the crews are going to do. I'm sure we'll see you tomorrow at some point, maybe. Well, Chris, you heard it there, and actually some of these residents that we talked to in the village of Longboat Key here, I had met with them about 2 years ago in 2020 when Hurricane Ada came through, and they did see water into their homes at that point, but like you heard, it's that king tide, it's the surge that we could potentially see. So most of the residents here have evacuated. There's some at home that I'll introduce you to later on as we go on over the hours, and they say that they do have a plan, that they've been through this, but for right now, if they haven't left, they're waiting it out until they can leave. Chris, back to you.
Yeah, and listen.
All right, that was a little bit there of coverage from Fox 13 in Tampa. We are actually going to be talking to Kim there in just a little bit, so we'll be getting the latest updates from her. We are going to take our first break here of this hour. I do want to show you what it's looking like out there in Florida right now. Live look right now in St. Petersburg, Florida. Then we have a look here of Clearwater Beach as well, and then we go out to Tampa here to close out. We are going to be tracking the very latest for you right here, as always, on Live Now. Stay right here with us.
I'd like the Bulls to start
break
taking over and at least get us moving back to the midpoint. So we've got a hockey stick right here, and it's just over resist the support. So Right here we have a little bit of minor support right there. But it's just over major support. So this could be the bounce on minor support to the new high. We'll see what happens. But let's go take a look at the midpoint to find out where the pullback is. See how much work they got to do. So they just barely made it into quadrant 2 today. Finally made it into quadrant 2 today. And you see they got a little bit of, they got a ways to go. They got to get all the way up to this midpoint and start closing candles up here in quadrant 3 in order for me to say, hey, the bulls are back in the transports. So for right now, we'll see what happens. But that's a bear flag if I've ever seen one right there. So we'll see what happens in the IYT. So USO got the bull flag happening, little mini head and shoulders, a little bit bigger head and shoulders right here, shoulder here, head there, and up over the neckline, just like the XLE. So here we are, creating a bull flag up in quadrant 4, which is a great sign. Still like to see this cool off, even if it goes through this trend line, and even if it turns a trend indicator red for a couple of weeks or even a month. I just like to see this cool off for a little bit more and then pick up and resume in October for another channel to the upside. So USO, that was it's very climactic there.
Now from Fox on this busy Tuesday as we continue to bring you coverage here, tracking Hurricane Idalia as right now it is a Category 1 storm there, but it is unfortunately going to continue to strengthen into a Category 3
look for opportunities
and is expected
near the
to
bottom
hit
of the flag
winds
and the
up
midpoint
to 125 miles per hour. So we are definitely going to be following it every step of the way right here for you on live now. Here's the latest look at the radar right now, and we want to go back out to our friends there at Fox 13 in Tampa as they continue to provide coverage
just stuck in this range between 8 and 6.
Continue to operate during and after the storm. We have a full list of the shelters and other vital information right now on Fox13News.com. And if you have any questions about the storm, the county actually has a 24/7 line that they are operating. The number you can call is 727-464-4333. Back to you.
As the surfers continue to get after it there behind Kaylee there. You don't see waves like this very often in the Gulf of Mexico. And I guess at least someone can benefit from this anxious time here. Thanks, Kaylee.
Well, emergency officials in Hillsborough County issued an evacuation order for people in Zone A, but time's running out. Fox 13's Gloria Gomez joins us live from Davis Islands. Gloria, what are these residents doing? You and I talked earlier. A lot of them been through this before, right?
Choosing to stay. Line here today.
Right. I did find one resident that actually said, yeah, he is leaving. He and his family are going to stay with his brothers tonight. They were going to stick around, but they decided, you know what, if officials say we should go,
either tomorrow or the next day.
But not everybody is doing that. And some people say, no, we're going to stick it out. We're just going to hopefully dodge the storm. And that's not what emergency officials want to hear. In fact, they had a press conference. We have video of that this morning where they reminded residents that, in fact, Zone A is a mandatory evacuation. Those are people living in the flood zone, including residents here, but a lot of them are going to stick it out and decide to stay. And, of course, the sheriff here in Hillsborough County said, you can do that, but you're doing that at a huge risk. Take a look.
Medium time frame. You pull this down.
Wind and rain has come, and you're in a position where the power went out and you're power dependent, and we asked you to take you or your loved ones to a shelter, and you decided to stay and shelter in place, which is your right, but realize it comes with tremendous risk. Again, there's no greater sinking feeling for you or us when you make that phone call, you call 911, and help's not coming.
But others did heed the warning. In fact, a assisted living facility was evacuating their residents. About 24 residents were being evacuated and taken to a safe facility in the Brandon area. Officials also tell me that there are some shelters open, about 10 of them here in Hillsborough County. There was about 113 people that were already there. They're probably expecting more tonight, but they always urge residents that if you have family or friends that are not in evacuation zones, go there instead. So those are the warnings tonight, and we'll kind of see how this all plays out tonight. Back to you.
All right, Gloria Gomez reporting live for us. Thank you.
That box,
and as the hurricane does make its way closer to Florida, of course, we will be there every step of the way.
Stay with us for more county-by-county coverage and Paul's in-depth
forecast. Another $2 move
right
up over 24.
All right, that was just some of the coverage there from Fox 13 as they continue to track
insight
hurricane
here in your scope,
and we'll continue to do the same as well. Right now, I do want to show you just the latest update
in the coming weeks,
Governor Ron DeSantis
that's what I see as a possibility.
As, he continues to go really to some of the major counties
with us,
Kevin impacted, and we will bring it to you right here on Live Now from Fox.
And take this
Our Major General Haas, we have Columbia County Emergency Management Director Shane Morgan, Sheriff Mark Hunter from Columbia County, and Representative Chuck Branham.
Minor resistance.
This storm is going to impact inland counties, and particularly in northern Florida, you are going to see significant impacts. The contours of that will obviously be determined by the exact path of the storm, but I think you're doing the right thing to be prepared. So we're talking about counties like Columbia, we're talking about counties like Hamilton, Madison. All those counties are going to be affected by Hurricane Idalia. We are monitoring some of these computer models. You may see the National Hurricane Center update the track in either 2 o'clock or the 5 o'clock advisory. There are models suggesting that this is going to take more of a westward shift that could bring it into areas like Jefferson and Leon and Wakulla area even. And people have known that this is a possibility, and I know all those counties are making preparations. But that is something to look out for. There's still a range of uncertainty here. They're going to be updating this track as the day goes on, and we will have probably better resolution on that as we get to the 2 or the 5 o'clock advisory. But that is a possibility. We've been in contact with all the local officials in all these areas, and I know people have been making preparations. So continue to do that. The state is already starting to feel some effects of this in the southern part of the state. You're going to start to feel some effects of it in the northern part of the state, probably later tonight, the beginning of tomorrow morning. We have expanded our executive order this morning. We now have 49 counties total. We've added Brevard, Orange, and Osceola counties, and so pretty much
it seemed to have been right
top of the state, all the way into central Florida, maybe excluding some of the farther western panhandle counties. But there's a huge number of counties that are going to feel impacts from this, and we want to make sure they're able to do what they need to do. We're proud of all the staging that's been done, particularly for power restoration. We're now at over 25,000 linemen as of this morning. That is going to be over 30,000, approaching 40,000 by the end of today. And the goal is when the power, and you are going to lose power if you're in the path of this storm, you should assume that that's going to happen. And the goal is going to be rapid restoration of power. Some of the parts where this storm is projected to go are a lot of trees. There's going to be a lot of branches, a lot of trees. There's going to be a lot of power lines down. Just expect that. There's a lot of manpower that's going to go to address it, but it's definitely going to be something that is going to require a lot of manpower and a lot of attention. So power restoration is something that is very, very important, and we want to thank all the utilities that have marshaled. We've got people coming from southeastern states, we've got people coming from Nebraska coming to Florida to be ready to go to restore power here in the state of Florida, and we think that's important. The local municipalities that have utilities, some of the electric co-ops, all those, please accept the mutual aid. We want to be able to have as much manpower as possible to get that power back on for all of your residents, and we know how important it is for so many Florida residents to be able to get back online. But you should prepare to have some time without power if you're somebody that's in the path of the storm. You might have had it doesn't mean just in the cone, because there's going to be impacts that are going to be outside whatever the National Hurricane Center says is the path of the
that's
storm.
It for the evening wrap-up.
There have been
questions?
Evacuation orders issued for people on coastal areas, barrier islands, low-lying areas. You still have time, particularly if in the northern part of the state, you have time to be able to evacuate. You don't need to drive hundreds of miles. You don't need to try to outrun the storm. Just get to higher ground, get into a safe structure, ride out the storm, then you can go back to your place. But in some of these areas, like a Cedar Key, some of these others, along the Big Bend, you're talking about really, really significant storm surge potential. I mean, this is similar 10, 12 plus feet of storm surge could happen in some of those areas. And